Thank you, Marie. So I'm going to welcome up our first panelist. The format of this is we're going to have two brief presentations, and then we're going to have a bit of a Q&A and open up for some questions from the audience also. So first of all, I'd just like to ask you guys, what were you doing when you were 16 years of age? So our first panelist, Sebastiaan, was busy founding GameSys, now known as Poki, which was a web game platform. It operates across over 50 different international markets and has a reach of 32 million users. So it's a fantastic achievement. So with that, I'd like to welcome Sebastiaan to the stage, and he's going to bring you through his journey.
All right, I'm Sebastiaan. I'm the co-founder of Poki. I'm going to tell you something about our transition to mobile over the past couple of years and the years to come. So to tell you a bit about Poki, our company, it was founded in 2005 as a web game portal. So what we do is we build a portal, a website where people can go and play free games. We didn't create the games ourselves, so we were an aggregator collecting games and offering them to users for free. We made money from ads with partners such as Google, but also premium ad partners, big brands such as Disney, Lego, Mattel, that want to reach our audience. So we were founded as a web game portal, but more recently became a game publisher in the mobile era, and more about that in a bit. We currently reach 32 million monthly active users. 20% of those are mobile, growing fast, obviously. We're a team of 25, we have an office in the city center of Amsterdam. To give you a bit of background information about our company culture, we try to give our people as much room as we can to come up with their own projects and try to give them a lot of room for creativity, because we think that's essential in the multi-screen world. Example of that is that we go on a yearly company retreat to a tropical island. We've done it 2 times now. So in 2014, we've been to Koh Samui in Thailand with the entire team for a month. Last year, went to Bali. And in January, we're going to Mexico. And it's a lot of fun, good for team building, but it's also really useful to kind of come up with new ideas and get on the same page and prepare for the mobile future. All right, so about mobile. Back in 2014, Poki was still called GameSys and wasn't really a brand. GameSys was the company name, the B2B brand. But what we really offered to users were a collection of local brands. So, for example, US, UK users would go to gamepilot.com. Our French users went to jeux.fr, which was actually the first portal. And our role really was to offer users a local game experience and curate all the different web games that were out there. So we internationalized the portal to different countries, which resulted in a collection of 23 local brands. Now, that worked really well in the desktop age, but it worked well on desktop. So in 2014, we had 10 million monthly active users, of which only 5% was on mobile. So 95% of that was desktop. To emphasize once more, we were focusing on the portal. So we were building the web technology, categorization, marketing tools to kind of collect these games and offer services to the developers and connecting them to our audience, but we weren't necessarily publishing games ourselves or producing stuff ourselves. So, flash forward to mobile. We all know that mobile is growing really fast, and I think especially in gaming, it's become huge. Games like Angry Birds have kind of introduced mobile as the platform of choice for casual games. So we knew from the start of mobile that at some point it was going to be big and that we needed to go there to survive. So we needed to move there. So our ambition was to go to mobile and to go to mobile web and apps. So that was the ambition in 2014, but there were a few major challenges on the way there. I think there are challenges for everyone because user behavior, screen size, technology comes with some challenges. But for us, there were some especially big challenges because our business model was kind of tied up to desktop and some of the technologies that worked there but didn't work on mobile. So as an example of one of those major challenges, the games on our site were the majority of those were Flash games. The last 15 years, there's been a great collection of Flash games. Indie developers have created great content in Flash, and that was working really well. The downside of that is that our users were used to playing these games, and these games were not working on mobile because Steve Jobs decided that Flash wasn't supposed to be it. I think he has good reasons for that because it's not the future. The future of web games is HTML5. So in theory, that will work, but the HTML5 technology wasn't mature in 2014. So big challenge for us that our users were used to playing Flash games, and Flash didn't work on mobile, and the alternative, HTML5, was not mature yet. Second problem is that we were a portal, and there aren't really any portals in the app stores. I think actually the app stores themselves were the portals, so we were kind of in a difficult position where we're competing against the app stores, and people were just going there for their games, so why go to a portal? So the value we had on desktop wasn't really present in the same way, or not nearly as big as on desktop on mobile. So those were two major challenges that we had to overcome and kind of figure out and come up with a solution for. But what kind of worked really well in the desktop age, the localized brands that gave users a local gaming experience, started working against us because we didn't have a single strong brand that could kind of take us forward in the multi-screen world in the mobile era. So we started thinking about this when we were in Thailand with the entire team and came up with a solution. And the first and most essential part of that was that we had to build a single strong brand. We couldn't move to mobile or communicate new products if we were fragmented over 23 different web brands. So first step was build a brand that we can use to innovate and adapt to mobile. Then the second step, the second direction that we figured was necessary in the multi-screen era was that we had to move from being an aggregator to actually being a creator. So we had to move towards the content creators, towards the game developers, and really become more active in the creation process because aggregating wasn't as relevant as it used to be. So that building a brand, the first step, was a really, really big project because we had 23 local web brands. These web brands were known with advertisers, with users. So it took a lot of care, a lot of measurement, a lot of careful work to rebrand those to Poki. We're now nearly done. I think there's a few sites with especially a few markets where the old brands were especially well known, and we're still kind of working out how we're going to transition those. But in time, we're all the web brands are going to be rebranded to Poki, which is also the company name, by the way, right now. So it's all becoming a lot simpler. We needed a universal. So on the way to Poki, we needed a universal brand because we figured that we want one brand name that we could put in all our games on all our web portals to be recognizable. It had to be suitable for the different cultures and languages, so it couldn't have any undesired meaning in a specific language. So we asked our network of translators. We have about 30 translators working for us on a daily basis remotely, and we asked them, what do you think about this name? Does it mean anything offensive in your language? And in the end, and there was another important requirement. We wanted to acquire the .com because we thought that on mobile it's really important to have an easy domain name that's easy to type in on mobile and that can really stick in people's heads. So in the end, we came with Poki, which kind of fit all that stuff, and the .com domain name was for sale, which is an interesting process on its own. But we were lucky to find it, and we could buy it, and we had our brand name. So now that we had the brand name ready, and we had a name and company and a logo to communicate what we were going to do, we continued to the next step, which was create instead of aggregate. So move more towards the role of developer and work together with developers on actually producing and creating content. There's a couple of things we did there. One example is that we partnered up with Tingly Games. The strategic game team at Google introduced us to them. They were kind of pioneering HTML5 content 2 year ago. They introduced us to Tingly. And a few months ago, we partnered up with them, and we're going to become their exclusive publisher, which is going to give us the ability to produce great cross-device content and introduce HTML5 games to our users so they can play the same games on desktop and mobile. We've launched the Poki publishing platform. We're not only going to use these HTML5 games for ourselves, we're going to share them with other portals that also have a need for HTML5 content. So besides building our own content portfolio, we're actually contributing to the web game ecosystem because we think it's necessary that more companies contribute to HTML5 and kind of let people know that there's more than just the app stores. even though we're also moving to the app stores and introducing our games there. The last thing, we launched an in-house game development team. So we have a team of 3 working on games. So besides the fact that these games are valuable and should be profitable on their own, it also gives us a better understanding of what drives developers and makes us a better partner for them if we're going to be their publisher. So even if we work with external studios, it helps that we're a game developer ourselves, at least have a small team doing it because we really know the ins and outs of what they go through. The current status of that is that we have 40 HTML5 games that work on all devices. Second part of moving towards the developer production roles that we're moving into the app space. So we're producing 2 high-budget apps right now. You can see them on the bottom left. And our role there as a publisher, we work together with studios. They're creating the actual games. And our role as a publisher is contributing our web expertise because we think that the stuff we learned and we know from the web is also really valuable in a different way in the app stores. So the way we promote and do user acquisition and advertising on our portal, we can also contribute that to in the relationships we have with developers. So a few examples, partners we know well, such as Disney, Mattel, Lego, also would like to be in our apps, and we have the connections in all the different countries to facilitate that. Big user acquisition campaigns on social media, Google AdWords, YouTube. We do that for our websites. We could also do that for the games that we're producing. So to summarize our journey in 2014, we were a web game aggregator. In 2015, with 10 million monthly active users, 400,000 of those were on mobile. In 2015, we rebranded to Poki. We started investing a lot in cross-platform content. The result of that was that we now reach 32 million monthly active users, of which 6 million are on mobile. So the mobile audience grew from 400,000 to 6 million. And the mission or the goal for 2016 and onwards is to create a cross-platform game brand that's no longer tied to any technological boundaries. So it's our ambition to create games, great games, awesome games to all screens wherever the users are. So a couple of lessons so far. Rebranding is very costly. So the domain costs money, so it's going to cost you money directly. But it's also going to cost you money and brand awareness because people have to get used to your domain name, but also because search engines like Google have to get used to your new domain name. So you're going to take a hit in the short term, but in the long term, it will give you a lot more potential. So we think it's worth it. Second thing, we really realized that apps are really lucrative. You can make a lot of money, but it's highly competitive. So come up with a good strategy to kind of have a realistic way of entering that market, or it will be really difficult. The last, perhaps most important realization is that even though we want users to be on mobile, and perhaps in the app stores especially, if monetization is good there, we shouldn't force them. So we want users to use our apps, but the first step to getting there is building great stuff, great content on web as well, and on desktop as well, because if they trust you there, they'll have reason to go to mobile. So don't force them, let them choose themselves. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you, Sebastiaan. Now, going from a 10-year-old digital company to a more traditional company, we're moving along to Perry's. Founded in 1908, they've been in the auto space since early days of Ford. They have over 1,800 employees, an annual turnover of over 800 million across 53 dealerships in the UK. Selling 15 of the top auto brands. Lee Manning's joining us now on stage, is their head of digital marketing. Despite the fact that Perry's have won 13 awards in the digital space in the last 2 years, Lee still maintains that they're bringing their strategy from poor to average. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with mobile over the years to come. Thanks, Lee.
Hello. Okay, so I've got 2 major challenges here. First off, I recognize that I am what's keeping you from your next break, so I need to do a good job there. The second challenge is that I have 36 slides in 10 minutes to go through, so I'm going to go really, really quickly. If you see something on the screen that you want it, I'm assured that you'll be able to download slides afterwards with Google, so away we go. So what I'm about to tell you, it definitely isn't profound. It really isn't new, and it's not rocket science. but it might just nudge you to think slightly differently about how you approach mobile. That is my one goal for the presentation that I'm about to give you. So we were asked by Google to come and talk like a case study about kind of how Perry's, how Brian said, gone from a poor website to what we now deem as a reasonable website. And you know, it's a really interesting story about how we were kind of going back to basics. We like to talk about why we're building for mobile and not how we built for mobile. So hopefully you're going to see that in the presentation I'm about to give. Before I do that, I just kind of want to highlight something I found interesting about society and culture. Everything risky requires a license. If you think about it, learning to drive, owning a gun, and getting married, everything risky that is except for technology. When you think about it, there's kind of no license for technology, and it's so important to our business. And there's kind of no rules, no playbook. You kind of think about all the kind of technological things that we have to go through, new platforms, new code languages, social networks, and so on and so forth. You know, it's really, really difficult. In fact, technology is freaking hard. And I don't think we're unlike any other business who kind of struggles with the whole complexity of the whole thing. So this was Perry's website back in 2012. This is basically buy my stuff, oh yeah, and buy some more stuff. And that was kind of what the starting point for us was in order to go forward. So I spoke to our dealerships. I said, hey guys, what do you think to the website? They said, oh geez, you're just not getting us enough inquiries. It's so frustrating. I spoke to the consumers. I said to the guys, I said, what do you think to the website? They said, oh, it's so frustrating, so much technical jargon on your website. I don't understand it. It really doesn't help me, and I can't find anything I need. It's almost like you're hiding this information from me so that I have to call you. I rumbled. So I brought in these guys. This is my team. I'm incredibly proud of these guys. They're absolutely focused on being relationship counselors. There's clearly a broken relationship here. And they were brought in to help highlight and fix one of the most common problems that I find in modern marketing. George Bernard Shaw said it best. He said that the single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place. I have a video which I think that no matter what industry you're in, you might find some of this seeping through into your own organizations.
Hey there. Long time no see. Looking good.
Yeah. Let's just keep this simple. I want a divorce.
What now?
I think you heard me just fine.
Come on. This is me. What's wrong?
We don't talk anymore.
I just put down $1 million on a TV commercial just to talk to you.
Exactly. You do all the talking. I never get a chance.
Talk on our website, can't you?
Sure. If I want to say, order this product.
See?
It's not exactly a dialogue.
What about the print campaign, You can't tell me you missed the billboard in Times Square. That was like a 200-foot tall declaration of love.
You're saying you love me, but you're not behaving like you love me. It's not genuine.
I don't know. The agency said I was genuinely being funny. Genuinely being charming. They said you would love everything I did.
Would you keep your voice down? You're not doing a radio commercial. Look, whether you're funny or not, it's just, I've changed, and you haven't. I mean, we don't even hang out in the same places anymore. You're not even listening, are you?
Coupons. You want coupons, don't you? Look, come by the store. I got 2 words for you. Loyalty, reduction. Am I right? That was it, wasn't it? Let's just hug.
If you knew me, you'd know I don't care about that.
Know you? Sweetheart, I know everything about you. You're 28 to 34. Your online interests include music, movies, and laser hair removal. You have a modest but dependable disposable income. Am I the only one not getting the problem here?
I'm out of here.
Oh, come on. Don't be like that. Look, I'll tell you what. Come back here tomorrow. I'll give you the chance to win a Bahamas vacation. There's a small chance, minuscule, but technically still a chance. It might be like the old days.
Oh, we've skipped forward quite some far. Okay, so obviously no digital marketing presentation wouldn't be complete without a Steve Jobs quote. So, I mean, this is a fantastic quote. You've got to start with the customer experience and work backwards to the technology, not the other way around. That's what we installed into our team to make sure absolutely that everybody was on the same page. So the thing is that data is beautiful. It really is. But That's great news what Steve Jobs said to me, because I really, really love the simplicity of people. And actually what we do with anything, whether it's mobile, whether it's for a tablet, or whether it's for desktop, is we actually build for people. We stop and think about building for people. What does that look like for us? In our industry, you've all seen this slide before, I'm sure, but actually for awareness, kind of 10 years ago, somebody might drive past a billboard. Consideration was visiting on average 9-point-something dealers before making a purchase. Intent was narrowing it down to kind of 3 or 4. And decision was like, I want this car, I need to get the right price. Fast forward to now, what does that look like? Well, the reality is all of the green section that you see there is now done online. So the question whenever we build anything is that actually, what is it that people used to instinctively do offline that they now need to do online? We have to build for that. I think I heard earlier in an early presentation as well about making sure that consideration is part of your build. This is what happens on an automotive customer journey. And you look at all of this stuff, this is not just an automotive journey. I'm sure that this makes sense in all of your sectors and your verticals as well. So the reality is, if that wasn't complicated enough, just how people do this and devices that they use adds an even bigger level of complication. Like I said before, technology is freaking hard. So if you think about some other small stats, you've got 92% of customers begin their journeys online, and actually still 9 out of 10 purchases take place offline. That stat was spun by 3 different companies. It's Forrester, Yahoo, and Comscore. They all come up with the same result. This is a real stat. So it stands to reason that the better we are over here, the more we're likely to sell in the showroom. And this is absolutely brand new information that came out kind of last week from YouGov. They say that those that own a tablet and a smartphone, only 7% will opt to buy a product via the mobile. And actually, our mobile traffic has increased, like it's almost at 50% now. This is colossal. The reality is we're not selling any less products, but people aren't buying on mobile. So what's happening here? I don't think that this is necessarily just a device that they use. I think this is a behavior that actually, for us, mobile is really just the first date. And of course, there's a lot more to do. A good landing page is absolutely fantastic. But the reality is, it's the equivalent on a first date to holding the door open for your date. I mean, it's a great job, but you've still got so much more work to do. You need to make sure that your platform is built to cater not just the landing page, but the rest of the journey. So we focus absolutely on what consumers need, and we only put things into mobile that we actually think people on a mobile journey would want from us, but we give them access to find it if they're really determined to do that, if there's something missing from that journey. And we look at this, and whenever we build something, the old days, I think I've heard this phrase, mobile first, always build mobile first, and I think it's a fantastic phrase. What we found is that actually it's everything first. You have to kind of think about how we're responsive websites. You have to think when you're designing how that will respond down to your mobile usage and other key things you need in the right places. So we make everything also fumble friendly. That's something that's installed into the team, and we make it simple and humanized. I'm sure all this is absolutely logical to you guys. But it's about listening to our consumers, really trying to understand exactly what it is they need. And we're in a continuous change cycle, so we don't wait till it's perfect before we launch it. We think, look, this might be enough. We'll send it out. We'll see what happens. We'll get some feedback. But massively, we concentrate on the consideration stage journey, because people absolutely are sick to death of hearing, buy my stuff, buy my stuff, buy my stuff. And actually what they want is just kind of how it used to work offline. Love me, look after me, and take me through, and eventually I'll want to purchase something from you. This is a Jedi Knight of change. This is Harold Perry. He set up Perry's in 1908 and mastered 3 major changes in communication. And now we believe that actually in our team, it's our duty to kind of adapt to that digital change. What does that look like? It's exactly what we spoke about earlier on. People are doing this sort of stuff. They're not doing it with us anymore. But what does that really mean? Well, it means that actually the website is just, if we're pumping people into an already broken system. And actually what we've got to do is educate our people, whether that's the directors, whether that's the sales managers or the receptionists, to help people when they come in from the website in order to guide them on the right journey. And that's vital. So we've got a massive job in teaching everybody that everybody's job is digital marketing. Our sales executives now provide content from our website and social media on a daily basis to our consumers to help them through the journey. That is special. So we've won a lot of stuff, as Brian said, and we're very proud of that, definitely. You know, we've doubled inquiries and we've had record profits and a lot of accolades, which is fantastic. But the reality is this is what's important to us. It's helping people go through the whole experience from start to finish. This guy, I certainly can share this more with you in the break, but this guy started on mobile, on his Facebook, talking to his friends, no intentions in buying a car. He downloaded a brochure. Our sales exec contacted him. He came to take a test drive. He did everything he needed to do on mobile, but he did the rest on desktop. Came in to take a test drive. He didn't just buy one Jaguar F-Type, he bought two. And this is from a guy that wasn't even interested in buying a car in the first place. The whole experience was very special. That makes me happy. That's the rewards that we're looking for. Ernie loves it too, my favorite picture of all time. One last thing, the story nearly always begins with our goals and the user's journey. And how well we do really does depend on how well we understand them both. My advice to you is that before you build anything, if you're struggling with design in terms of how you're going to go to mobile, think more about the user first. Everything else will become apparent. That's what we did. That's what helped us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. I'd like to know, was that kiss a result of commission, or did he know that woman? Okay.
It's just fantastic either way.
Nice. I'd like to welcome Sebastiaan back on stage. We're going to run through some Q&A. Thank you, Lee. If you'd like to take a seat. I'm going to move this over a little so I can see you guys. So, we did have some discussion earlier on. So, as impromptu as this may seem, we had a lot of discussion around a lot of different topics, and we've brought it into what we believe is some of the core topics that that you guys are going to find most interesting. So I think where we started, I've been at Google almost 11 years, and for a good 7 or 8 of those years, we've been talking about the year of mobile. And when you look at third-party research, I think certainly coming into 2010, it's properly hit home, and now a lot of our major markets are seeing more mobile queries than desktop. So question for me, for you guys, and maybe we'll start with you, Sebastiaan, in terms of, like, when was your realization that you needed a shift from your web strategy to incorporate more mobile? And in that, like, were there any eureka moments, or what were the big things for you?
Yeah, so realization, not sure when that was. I think it was a while back, because gaming has been big on mobile for a while. So that was a few years ago. Most important moment, I think, game-changing moment, was 2013, when we really became ready to really adapt to mobile and started thinking about a rebrand, stuff like that. So it was in 2013 that we started hiring people and taking the first steps, and actually moving towards changing our brand and changing our product strategy for mobile. Before that, we just didn't have the capacity to do it, because at the same time, the web was still growing for us too, and that was still a huge opportunity. So we figured, we focus on that first, grow our company, and then prepare ourselves to make a transition.
You made a really interesting point earlier on around your initial thoughts were around pushing your users to apps. Can you maybe elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, so what we've been hearing from some competitors was that it was impossible or very hard to convert users from desktop to mobile or from web to app. And at some point we realized that even though you might want your users in the app stores because there's more monetization or a bigger user base there, that to get there, you really have to focus on creating value on all platforms. So to get to the app store, you have to paradoxically focus on the web, and really focusing on creating great IPs and a great experience first. I think we needed that to kind of get us out of this conversion to mobile, get to mobile mindset. So that was really a game-changing moment, because now we're thinking about how do we create a cross-platform IP on all platforms. So it's a different way of thinking, and that was an important realization.
Okay, so it's catering for those users across all platforms. That's ultimately allowing your growth and development on mobile.
Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. And Lee, very different challenge, obviously, like in your digital strategy with Perry's. It's somewhat easier sell even on the desktop side, I'm sure, in a traditional type business. But When did it really hit home that mobile was going to be a core element of that?
From the day I arrived, and I think that all 1,850 staff were aware of it. I don't think that their challenge was, what should we be doing with mobile? It was, we just don't know what to do with mobile. I think that when I arrived, their stats were something like 35% mobile usage, and yet they didn't have a mobile presence. And I think that when you go and speak to the staff, what you find is that they're full of fear. They say things like, customers bringing in mobiles, and it's just ridiculous. And I shouldn't be using mobiles in the showroom and stuff like that. Actually, what they were saying is, we're really scared. We're not handling this, and we need to handle it. And so it was too late. We had to get straight onto that. And that's why we opted for responsive in the end. And
maybe you guys can talk a little bit about the core capabilities. So what were needed internally, or what did you need to build within your teams to allow you to take full advantage of mobile as a platform? Maybe we'll start with you.
Yes, so I think we had a pretty small team. 2013, we were 5 people, mainly working on web technology. So we moved from building websites and web technology to producing games. So we needed to learn a lot there, and we needed to expand our team. There were some surprises there. It turned out that 2 of our web developers were actually pretty good game developers too, so they developed our first game. Turned out they did it as a hobby and had done it when they were younger. So part of it was pivoting internally, but we also had to hire new people. For example, we have now 2 artists that are drawing art for a game that we're producing right now, so that was new to us. It was nice to do that, by the way. It was really nice to add that creative spark to your team, whereas before it was mainly technology, marketing, and more the data side, and now there's people drawing ideas and making ideas come to life. So that was a new skill set. And we're also co-producing games with studios, so it's not really hiring, but we're learning a lot from them and seeing how they create games, and they've often been doing so for a long time, also before mobile was big. So there's a lot we can learn from them. So we started off as a small team and didn't know as much, and learning a lot fast.
So it's a constant learning process.
Yep.
In terms of your partner contribution, so both Google and others, how much input did you find you had in terms of your mobile strategy, and what was missing?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
Yeah, so in terms of what support you got from Google and your other main partners.
Yeah, I mean, I think that on the whole, Google have always been fantastic at supporting us with anything technical, strategy, and so on and so forth. I think I've mentioned before in numerous workshops that the one thing that they would really benefit from is helping us to educate people. Because this is really the biggest challenge, is that anybody in digital tends to get it. But what they all have in common from the last conference I went to was that everyone struggles to get the message down in a language that people understand. It's very difficult to do that, so many different types of people. And on the way here, my driver, Brian, cool Brian, wasn't you? This guy was brilliant. He had 2 mobile phones in his car, and I said to him, why have you got 2 mobile phones? He said, one's a Halo app, and one is the Uber app. And I said, okay, so is it not just an app? Couldn't you put it on the same phone? He said, no, they give me the phone. I said, what, so Uber give you the phone? He said, yeah. And I said, and what do you like with technology? I was really interested in how they'd educated him to use this thing. He says, terrible, don't use that Facebook thing. My wife gets in all sorts of trouble with it. All technology's nonsense. And yet here he was with 2 mobile phones. So I said to him, so how did you pick up how to learn the app? He said, Uber invited me in. And I spent half an hour with them, and the guy went through and showed me exactly how it works. And after that, it kind of made sense. So this guy's got an iPhone, and all he knows how to use on it is an Uber app. And that is where breaking down the barriers here in educating people actually makes them adopt the things that we want them to adopt in the first place. And I think that if there's one thing that Google could do better, it's giving us not literature to create awesome strategies. It's actually giving us something to educate people who actually are not really that interested.
Okay. Which I know internally has been a core focus of you in terms of like how your team educates your branches and your dealerships in terms of how to use mobile and digital in general. Sebastiaan,
sorry. To add something that I think for us is a bit of the opposite thing. We kind of like Google's an important partner for us, and we want to be in the app stores and on mobile web, and we really like that Google doesn't really force companies to choose for either. So some other Apple, for example, wants users in their app stores, so we're having we've been having quite a bit of trouble getting our web games to work on mobile phones, whereas Google kind of just rides the wave and adapts and supports whatever is popular on the web. So I think that was valuable in our relationship with Google. I think that's the reason that we're doing a lot more with Google than with Apple, for example.
Okay. Let's talk a bit more about challenges. So, like, we spend a lot of time evangelizing about mobile and the opportunity and what's possible. Can you tell us a little bit more about your experience in terms of the value that you're seeing from mobile, what you're bringing back into the company, and also maybe in terms of what the feedback is from the wider organization on the quality or the value that mobile is bringing? Maybe we'll start with you, Sebastiaan.
Yeah. So for us, it's not really relevant to give it an exact valuation because we know that it's huge. It's really huge in gaming, so we knew we absolutely have to go there. So we're doing our best to really keep investing and keep learning and actually putting a lot of budget in mobile, even though we might not make back the money on the first try in the first project. So right now we're really focused on learning and really investing a lot of time, effort, and money in that. So we're not really exactly valuing it, but it's huge, so we are constantly investing. We're willing to invest.
Okay, great.
Yeah, for us it's super difficult to do that, and again, this is where education kicks in for us because as I said before, our purchases take place offline, and where a user goes and crossing devices and the platforms that they begin the journey on, 24 touch points, it's really difficult to know which one of those channels actually results in the overall sale or even contributes to it. You've got ideas and so on and so forth. And I think that, it's one of our biggest challenges because the change in behavior, in addition to that, we've had a lot of mobile inquiries coming through since we've got better at mobile. But the problem is that on a desktop, people will draft out, "Hi, I'm interested in this car. I'm looking to get this for my part exchange. I want to take a test drive on Tuesday. And if I come in, will you do me this deal?" That's something that a salesperson sees and thinks, "Wow, that's fantastic." But on mobile, they say, "Oh, hey, is this car still for sale? Send." And so our salespeople look at it and they think, ugh. And then the reality is we've got an operational challenge there, which we're working on. And again, it comes through education and training to help people understand this journey, and anybody from the sales executives right through to the receptionist and up to the senior management team. But that's the key. We're generating colossal amounts of inquiries to the point where we're actually saying maybe the operation can't cope with the amount of inquiries now. Maybe we need to fix that before we generate any more, which is a great place to be in, of course, as a digital marketing manager. But, it's still a really difficult challenge for us.
Great. One final thing, I think we touched on an interesting insight around app innovation that I think it'd be interesting to share before we open it up to the floor for questions.
Yeah, so I think we were relatively late to the app space. There's been big games having big hits there for a long time. So you could call that a disadvantage, but for us, we have kind of an advantage too, because we're really focusing on cross-platform and doing things great from the start on all these platforms. That there's a lot that we can learn from stuff that's been happening in apps. So there's been a lot of innovations in in-game monetization, for example, in apps that wasn't really happening on the web. The web was mainly banner ads. But these games right now in the app stores, they're doing really smart things to provide value to their users and to advertisers and monetize well. For example, rewarded video is very big in mobile gaming right now, where you can watch an ad and give a user coins or something in-game in reward for watching that ad. And that's actually stuff that we're looking at bringing back to web, where it's not really happening. So yeah, there's a lot of things you can learn in two areas. So the cross-platform approach really makes sense from a learning perspective as well.
That's really interesting. It's great insight. We have a few minutes left. I'd like to open it up to the floor. If anyone has any questions, I have a microphone that's disguised as a cuddly android. Anyone? Silence. Okay. Right. Well, guys, Sebastiaan and Lee will be with us over today and tomorrow. We've got a number of breaks, so please, everybody engage, have that conversation. In terms of top tips, is there any one takeaway that Lee you would share with the audience?
Just don't build anything until you understand exactly what people need from it.
Okay, and Sebastiaan?
Yeah, build a brand and go from there.
Okay, Excellent. So I think is how I would sum this session up. 3 things that I took from it is really, understand the value that mobile brings to your company, whether it's directly attributable to the bottom line or not. Ensure that you educate the right people, and whether that's your users or internally, so that you can take full advantage of mobile as a platform. And thirdly, respect the user. Put the user first, and everything else will come. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.